Hi class, my name is Dr. Farina King and I'm your instructor for this course. Something I wanted to do was share with you a glimpse into the NSU Archives here at the John Vaughn Library in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, and to let you know that this is a great resource and place for you to come to if you are in the area, if you live in Tahlequah or the region. Please come in, visit with the staff here and the leaders in the archives and special collections such as Brenda Bradford, Blaine McLean, and Ashley Stoddard, and they would be happy to work with you. For this class, I do ask you all to work on a research project of your own, and it needs to focus on primary sources, at least one central primary source. And I ask you to make a video like I'm doing now where you present this primary source. Sometimes students are confused about what is a primary source. Well, coming to the library and the archives is a great place to find primary sources. And what I mean by a primary source is a source that comes directly from a historic moment, time in the past. So for instance, a project that I'm working on here at NSU with Dr. John McIntosh, a geography professor, is the Mapping Tahlequah History Project. And for this project, we're trying to feature historic sites in the Tahlequah region, and we're creating an interactive digital mapping website where you can click on those points, those sites that are marked on a map, and then you can see different information such as the historical significance of these historic sites. So if I wanted to feature and examine a primary source about the Cherokee National Female Seminary, I could come here to the John Vaughn Library, where you can find the archives in the east wing of the library. It has a separate entrance. I would message Brenda Bradford or Blaine McLean ahead of time, and I would come here and ask them, I'm interested in the NSU history and the history of the seminary. Do you have primary sources that I could examine or look at? And it would help to even specify more. Think about more specifically what you want to look into and understand. So for myself, I'm interested in some of the alumna of the seminary, the famous trailblazers such as Dr. Isabel Cobb, who went here in the late 1800s. And so I asked Blaine and Brenda if they could tell me about any primary sources that feature Isabel Cobb that come from her. Rather than looking up in an encyclopedia about Dr. Isabel Cobb, I want to find a source that comes from her time, that features her in the late 1800s, that historic moment in the past. So when I asked them about it, they told me that they had one of her letters that she wrote while she was a student here at. So this part you can consider is me, Dr. King, sharing a primary source with you, making a video, because here I am featuring the letter that Isabel Cobb, also known as Belle Cobb, wrote while she was a student here at the Cherokee National Female Seminary. When I look at this source, I can tell it is a primary source because if you see the date, it was written on March 13th, 1887. And if you examine the letter and, decipher the cursive writing and the intricate way, then you learn more about Isabel Cobb and her time here at the seminary. She talks about someone named Mag. Maybe that's short for Margaret, and I can look up later who that could be, what other students were there at the time. That Mag was a student who was feeling sick. And Belle Cobb, that's how she identified at the time, she talks about fellow students and pneumonia at the school or different sicknesses and how doctors need to come to the campus, come to the school, and help care for the students and treat them. She has different insights about this. So just from this primary source, I learned that illness was an issue at the school in 1887, and that was an experience and memory that would be important to Belle Cobb. And this is a letter that was written, it was produced by Isabel Cobb, a historic figure of the time, and it comes from that time in the past, 1887. So it is a primary source, okay? And that's what I want you all to understand about the differences. You also can tell where she wrote it in Tahlequah. Who was it addressed to? It was addressed to her mother, and I had to do some background research to understand that, since she also writes more generally in the card, "Dear folks at home." So maybe it wasn't just her mother, but when you turn over the card and you actually have the envelope, it says Mrs. Joseph Cobb. That was her mother's name. They were at Fort Gibson Station in Indian Territory before Oklahoma was a state. So we can already gather and understand these different kinds of aspects of the past, specifically of Tahlequah and even this historic site, what happened, what kind of experiences occurred at Northeastern State University, the space that we dwell in and navigate that then was the Cherokee National Female Seminary. As I'm writing about Isabel Cobb, more specifically, a person with direct ties to NSU and the Cherokee National Female Seminary, I can use this letter to say that Isabel Cobb, while she was a young student at the school, she had interests in health issues, in medicine, and maybe that was a part of her inspiration for continuing with her life of becoming one of the first female physicians in Indian Territory and what would later become the state of Oklahoma. And that she not only would be one of the first female physicians, but American Indian physicians, Native American physicians, as a Cherokee woman. And so she was a trailblazer, someone who really paved a way, pushed boundaries in that way. And that's how I start to develop a argument, a thesis, main points, by turning to primary sources like this historic letter I found in the NSU Archives with the help of archivists and librarians such as Brenda Bradford and Blaine McLean. Go and dig up, research, use different kinds of collections. There's a lot of different primary sources that have been digitized, and you can find them on the websites such as the Library of National Congress. NSU has some sources digitized. You may have to contact the librarians and archivists directly for assistance with that. I know that some of you cannot come to NSU in Tahlequah easily, so do the best you can to work around that. You can research in archives and libraries locally where you are. If you are in the Tulsa area, Oklahoma City, there are a lot of wonderful archives there with plenty of primary sources to look into. And then remember, with your research, you will be examining secondary sources that help you to contextualize and understand the primary sources. For example, when I was looking at the letter from Isabel Cobb, I had to do more research, maybe looking at brief encyclopedic entries about her to get a sense of her overall life. And that's where I can make the connection that she would later become a physician and one of the first women in Indian Territory to do so. I also want to announce to you that in September 2019, in the last weekend, Friday and Saturday, September 27th to 28th, there is a special event, Paving the Way Symposium. And please try to make it. I will send more announcements and information about it, but check it out. This is a great way to connect with archives, libraries, and all kinds of special collections throughout the region of Oklahoma and the Green Country. Hi, I just wanted to let you all know this is how the entrance to the NSU Archives looks like. The East Wing, it's just connected to the John Vaughn Library main entrance. And so you turn to the right here if you're facing this entrance of the library. That's the entrance facing the seminary hall building. And then you walk on the right, you walk down the east wing, and it will be on your left. You'll see a door there. Check the hours. It's recommended to contact the archivist first to make sure they're around.